Hey coaches, starting a travel basketball team can be an outstanding adventure that you and probably your son or your daughter will share with you for a good portion, of their basketball career, especially if you started early enough. But if you're thinking about doing it, there are a bunch of mistakes that you can make. And so I'm glad you're here because I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've learned over the years, some things that I think you can put in your pocket and, use them, come up with a couple solutions. I'm going to provide some. But if you just know that these are problems before you jump into this, you'll have a better opportunity to prepare yourself for it, come up with a good solution, and probably not suffer as much as I did in the very beginning. But before I jump in, one of the biggest mistakes that you can make starting up a travel basketball team is going straight from recreation basketball to coaching travel ball and not have all of the skills, or at least know exactly what you're getting into. In your rookie year of coaching travel ball from rec ball is going to be a struggle, and that's why I put together this ebook. That it's a digital product. $4.99 is what I currently have it listed as, and it's basically just talks about that kind of the skills that you need to get from, or the skills that you need your team to have, that way you can kind of develop your practices around these different skill sets, and then when you go into your travel tournament, you're going to be a little bit more prepared. So there's a link to it down in the description box below. I think it's a great product for you to get. It's 40 something pages, and it just goes over everything that I remember my first year being, and thinking, man, I wish that I would have had these things set up, and it would have been better for my team. Been a lot more, I won't say more wins, because you don't win a lot your first year, but at least my team would have felt a little bit more confident than what they did. So that's just something that I throw out there for you. So let's just go ahead and jump into some of these other mistakes. The first one is just not having a clear budget. I was pretty lucky. I had some mentors when I first got in on the budgeting side, but there's a lot of hidden costs out there. If you're starting a team from scratch, uniform costs, shipping, just different fees that are associated with that, and just making sure that you get the right kind of uniforms, because there are rules that the organizations have, and you just got to make sure that you get it from someone that knows how to make the right numbers and whatnot. You also, you want to consider, the different travel costs, right? Like, you're going to be traveling to different tournaments. You're going to be, so you're going to have to feed these kids, right? 3 games a day and a whole weekend, whether they're going home at the end of the night or not. You're going to have to worry about the different travel costs, different food costs, different gas, fuel, etc. And that can certainly add up. Gym rental fees. I talk a little bit about some of these in the videos. There's ways to get around some of these costs, but there are some things that you're going to need to be aware of. So I do have a basketball breakdown budget that I have. It's free download. I'll put a link to it in the description, but that's a great link, or a great download to grab, and it just gives you everything that I can remember, all the expenses that I've had to deal with over the years. And then you're like, oh, I didn't know that we had that. You can put that amount in there, and it'll calculate it all out for you. You can put the number of players you have, how long your season is, and it'll even calculate how much each parent should be playing. So that's just another one of, and then also another thing on that topic, or that mistake, is just parents not paying, right? Like, if you're counting on a parent to pay and they leave the team halfway through the season, your budget's already there, and you got to have that money coming in. So, one easy solution to that is just count on 1 or 2 parents not paying. And if everybody pays, you'll have more at the end of the year that you can use for the following year. Another thing in that is just having some fundraisers set up to help you raise money for your team. So the second mistake that is common is just having the wrong players on your team, or not enough, or too many. I challenge you to look at commitment and attitude versus talent, right? You can find the best basketball players that might have terrible attitudes. They might not be coachable. I also look at parents as well. Parents a lot of times I was recruiting parents over players. I could get them to where I needed them to be, but the parents having the right, type of parents, parents that would make sure that their kids were at practice, parents that would make sure that they were helping out with their, portion of the cost. That's super important. Players that don't show up to practices or to games, you don't want to deal with that as a coach. They might be the best basketball player out there, but if they can't show up to practice, it won't be a team sport. And it's really hard to play travel ball without the team. So the third mistake that I want you to be aware of is not establishing rules early. Set these clear expectations. I mean, if you're stepping into this, you're probably already, good at doing that. You probably already have been somewhat successful at rec. But just make sure you're establishing those rules early. Those rules are, rules that your team's going to live by. It's going to be your culture. It's going to be things that parents are going to have to, comply with. The players are going to have to comply with. You're going to have kids that are going to show up late constantly to to games, to practices. You don't want that. You want to set the expectation that that's not acceptable. Missing practices or just the way they behave, those different things are tough. Playing on multiple teams, you want to think about things like that. Do you want your rules to say that kids can't play on multiple, for multiple teams? Because that can also get in the way of your tournament, your season. If you have a tournament scheduled and the other team has a tournament scheduled, who will the kid play for? And so those are always just great rules to have set up early on. One solution is just, signing a contract, which, on the inside of it or the outside of it, it's just, they can break the contract, but a list of rules, things that, you want to have all your parents and players comply with so that the parents can see them, directly in front of them and they know what to expect. The last one is just not the last one, but the next one is just doing this by yourself, doing this with no help. You definitely can't do it by yourself. I shouldn't say can't, but it will be hard, right? You're already stepping into your first year of coaching, and there's just you're gonna struggle with some of those things, and you don't want to have to also do all the administrative functions at the same exact time that you're doing that. So don't have that many hats. Delegate that over to other parents or other volunteers to help you with it. Some things that you're going to be dealing with, are those, is that budget and figuring out like what tournaments am I going to go to and how am I going to pay for this and who's going to do fundraising and who's going to register for tournaments and who's going to make sure that I have my team roster printed and who's going to make sure that we have basketballs to bring to warm-ups, who's going to, work on renting out the gym. Those are things that you want to do. I used my wife. She organized a lot of that for me. She made that part very easy. She communicated with parents. They had a group text message. I didn't have to worry about that stuff. I just showed up to games, showed up to practices, and that was essentially my role. The last one I'm going to talk about, and this one's kind of an important one. I learned this early on, and I did have some help with this to know not to do this, but you could enter the wrong tournaments. Some tournaments, it can be hit or miss. It depends on who's going. But you could enter tournaments that are like Division I, where all the players that are coming in are like outstanding, and they've been doing it for a while, and they have the best talent in the area. And unless you also have that, which you probably don't, if this is you're starting a team, you don't want to have to deal with playing a team that's 10 times better than you, and you're just getting destroyed in a full court press the whole time, and you're down by 100 points. You don't want that. My advice to you, the solution to this problem is, come up with your tournament schedule, but before you register for each one, reach out to that coach or whoever's running the tournament director, and just say, hey, new team here. We've only got a few teams or tournaments on our belt. Is this a tournament that we should enter? Who else is going? You can also look up the other teams that are registered. They should be able to give you a list of who's currently playing in that tournament, and you can look up their rankings and kind of figure it out. Each one's different, but for the most part, you can figure out like, hey, is this a team that's destroying everybody by a lot of points? And if it is, Don't be afraid to back out of those. You're not going to gain anything from that. I will say the big tournaments, you're going to play the tougher teams because of the way they set it up, but it'll all work itself out. And those tournaments are fine. Those big tournaments that, you do get destroyed by a lot, but then it gets you down to the right division or the right level. Those teams, those are okay. You just don't want to get stuck in some of these smaller ones where it's all just like heavy hitters. But so those are the 5 mistakes that I wanted to express or share with you today. I'll make another pitch for the ebook that I have. It's just essentially 40 pages of skills that I think that you should have as a new coach. I'm only charging like $5 for it. It's not that much. And also, if you are starting a travel basketball team, I am creating a directory of travel basketball teams on my website. It's free to enter. It's a great way for you to network with other coaches, to find out what coaches are in your area, so maybe you can get some scrimmaging. It's there for you. Register. There's a link to it in the description box below, and I look forward to seeing your team name on there.